Let's add one more fun feature to our application here, and let's do a preference for light or dark mode for the application here. So in my form, I'll go ahead and create another div that will have a label. Now, instead of linking the label with the input by the for and name properties, we'll just inject the input directly inside of the label itself. So this is going to be of type checkbox. It will have an ID of theme toggle, and it will have a name of theme toggle. All right. Now we're still inside the label, so we'll call this dark mode question mark, and we save, and here we go. We have our extra field. We'll switch over to the JavaScript file, and first thing we'll do is capture that new toggle input using the ID. So document get element by ID, where the ID was theme toggle, and in my form, so in the event listener for the form, we'll capture the theme toggle as well. And let's actually see what that would look like. So if I console log the theme toggle, would that actually come back as I expected? Let's see. So if we do select that, hit the save preference, but let me actually go to the console first. Save preferences, still need a name. And here we go. So we get on as a response for the theme toggle. All right, that sounds good. So we'll do local storage dot set item, where the item is dark mode, and the value for this would be whatever came back from the theme toggle. All right, let's just get rid of all the console logs to clean up our application a little bit. So now I can do dark mode, save preference. Technically, we're capturing this input. If I reload my screen, okay, looks like it did not update it. Oh, that's because we did not do it in the DOM content loaded. So let's do const dark or saved mode equal, we'll do local storage dot get item, where the item here is called dark mode. That's what we called it right over here. And we'll actually do a check. So we want this to store a Boolean value. And as we could see, the value that was coming back from the dark mode or from the theme toggle property here or input here was on off, which is a string. So what we'll do here is so if the value equals on, then saved mode is going to be of Boolean value of true. Otherwise, it'll be false. So now what we need to do is change the toggle input. So toggle input dot checked. This is the property that we're going to be updating. We'll change the checked value to whatever the saved mode variable or value is. I'll do F2 just so I can rename them both or refactor the names twice, so it's saved instead of save. What F2 allows me to do is that if I rename it in one place, it will also update the second instance of that variable as well. We'll hit save, and as you can see, now dark mode is updated because it's coming back from whatever the value that was stored here. If I uncheck that and save preferences, we see that it's now undefined. If I refresh my screen, nothing comes back because basically that's what the value is. All right, so now we're able to capture the value, but we actually did nothing to the UI itself. This is where we start doing some CSS work here. So I'll switch over to my CSS file. Our task here should be pretty simple because really all I'm going to be doing is updating the color and background color of the entire body of the page. So let's do the color, which is usually the font. Let's do 333 is fine. That's kind of a brownish, grayish color. And for the background color, that is going to be, let's do EEE, which is kind of a also light gray color. So if I save, you see that updates into my screen. Now, there are two ways that we can toggle the dark mode and light mode for our application. Either we use a data attribute, so we do data-theme, or we can actually have a class called dark mode that we would add onto the body tag itself. Let's do it with the data theme just so we can demonstrate that. So what we're gonna do here is for the body, we're gonna say if the data theme equal dark, then we actually want you to swap these two colors together. So that will become the background color, and this right here would become the color. And let's fix the indentation over here. Now, what actually triggers that is that if we go into the index, let's go scroll up to the body section or to the body tag element, whatever you want to call it. And if we have a data attribute called theme with the value of dark, we see that we were able to switch the colors from the light mode to the dark mode. You could do the same thing for all the buttons and all of the different options or different fields that you have in the form here. So now really the only thing that's left to do is that we would make our application listen to this property, and based on that, it will toggle this value from dark to light. Now I'll go to the JavaScript file. Just for cleanliness here, I'm gonna create a function called toggle dark mode, and we'll do the set attribute, where the attribute here is the data theme, where the value would be dark. But now I realize that this is only gonna always set it to dark, when in reality we want it to be able to toggle. So let's actually capture what is the current value of the theme first. So const current theme equal document body dot get attribute. Is that a thing? Yep. Where the attribute here is the data dash theme. So here, instead of just setting it to dark, let me do this over another line. We will set it to whatever the opposite of the current theme is. So we'll do if the current theme equals dark. That's a ternary operator, which is kind of like an if statement. So if this is true, then we want you to set this to light. Otherwise, this is your else. Set this to dark. All right, let's save this function. All right, so over here, we'll call the function toggle dark mode. All right, but it looks like because here we're actually capturing whatever the value that we want to set this to, we want to update this function so it takes a set value or whatever the value that we want to set it to. And instead of just having the normal toggle, we'll actually check if there is a value provided, then we want you to use that. So document.body.set the attribute to if the value is true, which means we want it to be dark, then we set it to dark. Otherwise, it's light. Else, if there was no value provided, then we want you to basically fall back to this normal behavior of checking if there is something or what is the current theme, and based on that, we switch it to the other one. So hit save now. It looks like when I saved, it actually refreshed because the function here was toggled with no value. So it actually went to the fallback scenario here. But if I do provide a value of the saved mode and save that, now because my saved value is dark mode, we get the dark mode. If I uncheck that and save it and refresh the screen, we go back to the light mode. All right, so let's actually make one more adjustment to our form submission so that when we capture the dark mode, not only do we just want to set it in the local storage, but we also want to pass it into the toggle dark mode function. So Here we can pass in the theme toggle, but again, because this function is expecting a Boolean value, we need to make sure that we adjust that into a Boolean value, which is the same thing that we've done over here. So we'll basically say, if the theme toggle equals on, then this is going to be receiving true, otherwise it'll be false. We'll save. If I do dark mode and save my preference, it switches. If I uncheck it and save my preference, it will update it as well. Now, the reason I kept it with a fallback scenario here is that what if I wanted to have a button that basically toggles between the light and dark mode instead of the checkbox? So let me just demonstrate that real quick. Let me create a button here, and let's call this mode toggle. We'll give it an ID of theme toggle. Now, technically, I shouldn't use that name because I already used it for my input right here. So let's just call this, just for demo purposes, I'll call this mode toggle. All right. Now, I'll switch back to my JavaScript file. And here I have my button on the side. We'll create a new reference to my new button, which is the mode toggle button equal document get element by ID mode toggle, and here we go. Now I'll add an event listener to this mode toggle button to basically indicate whenever this button is clicked, here's what I want you to do. We first want you to just call the toggle dark mode, which is not actually updating the local storage or anything. It's just basically looking at whatever the current value is. We want you to do the opposite of that. So here we go, toggle dark mode. If I save, now if I click, it's dark, light, so on and so forth. If I wanted to get a little bit fancier here and actually show some sort of an icon to indicate whether this is in light or dark mode, I can do something like this, where instead of that text, let me add in an emoji like a sun emoji. So right now it's in light mode, or let's actually put the moon first. Okay, and now in my script, I'll update this function. So not only does it set the attributes, but I also want it to return whatever that attribute is. So return, let's see. Should I do document.getAttribute? Probably yes. So we'll do document.body get attribute of the data theme. So this should be the value after all the modifications, after all the updates. And if I save that, over here we can say capture the new mode into this variable, and we'll update the button, the mode toggle button text content, so that if the new mode equals light, then we want the value to be the mode, or the moon, sorry. And if it's not, then we want you to return back the sun. Let's see what that does now. Now here I have the moon, and if I click on it, we switch to dark mode, and we also switch the text of that button to the sun, and it keeps switching back and forth as we click between those. So this video is kind of a demo that shows another use case for how you would use the DOM manipulations or the forms and the event listeners to actually add some sort of interactivity to your web page.